I think we're all probably still at the same time.
Yes, got you. Yes.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
With apologies that we're having tech difficulties, and so that is not very easy to be seen. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 11:30 a.m. First on the agenda is our consent agenda. Do we have any requests or action to discuss anything within the consent agenda? Or do I have a motion to approve it as presented?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we are good to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the election of officers. We need to elect a president, a vice president, and a secretary for 2026. And as I have had explained in the past, the president, in addition to running our meetings, occasionally is asked to sign a few documents and has a commitment of 4 additional meetings each year, serving as the tax representative to the Community Development Commission, which is the body that has direct oversight, supervisory responsibility of the office. Last year's president was Dave Scott, who has reported that he would prefer not to continue in the role of president. The vice president really is just here to run meetings in the absence of the president and doesn't have any other responsibilities. Last year's president was Tom.
If I don't have to be it, I would rather not be, but I can be if I need to be.
And the secretary position, which was held by Sue Cast last year, is not asked to write minutes, just to review them before Taylor and I send them out for full review by the TAC. And occasionally has to attest a few of the signatures from me and or the president. Do we have any volunteers or nominations for the office of president?
I'll nominate Diana. Is it Diana? Diana.
Do you accept?
Yes.
Do we have any other volunteers or nominees? Do we have any volunteers or nominations for the office of vice president?
You ladies want to do it?
That's fine, I can,
That's fine.
unless you're,
I don't, this is my second meeting I'd rather watch this year. Before.
All right, Kelsey. Any others? Do we have any volunteers or nominations for the office of secretary?
Maybe we should have you do secretary.
I have been
sometime.
serving as a fill-in for Sue. I could continue
Okay.
to do that. Unless you're ready.
Oh, no,
I don't mind.
please. Oh, I was getting ready to nominate Tom.
Oh, so
Are there any other volunteers or nominations
It's
for any
hardly-
other office?
hardly anything to it. You read the minutes.
Beth, do you have any volunteers or
I can't
nominations? You want to volunteer? Do you have any nominations you want to make? All right. Hearing none, I will call for a motion to close nominations and to approve the slate as presented.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Pass and we have officers. Thank you very much, Diana, you're in charge. Moving on in the agenda, I will ask you to turn to page 10 of your packet to start.
Nathan, do you have any more packets?
Oh, yes, I do, sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. I should have let you know I was coming.
No, that's fine, I've got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, now we don't necessarily have to drill down into every line in this right now. If you want, we can kind of just take a quick look and then go over it once we have heard from Brad and talk about thought some of the other ideas on the table, but I figured it might be helpful if we had all these numbers laid out in front of you. As was the case last year, we had a $40,000 marketing allocation. I threw in a number for Brad, a little bit higher than last year's. Like I said, he has not proposed anything yet, but I just needed a placeholder. I wanted to be conservative as I put this together. The 2 D.N.R guides, the 2 6-month bills for Ideas in Motion, which is GreatNews.Life, and I think that's a conversation we might want to continue before that is committed to. And the 2 options for travel in Indiana, and as I was thinking about this meeting, but after I prepared this, I realized that the way the 4-quarter proposal she offered comes in at 9,000. We actually, we could do that and still only have 7,400 of the budget allocated because the last 1,600 would actually probably come out of next year's budget because it's Q1 of 2027 because we missed quarter. So if we want to pursue travel in Indiana, and specifically we want to go with that first quarter next year that we missed this year, we could still, for budget purposes, assume that it's the 7,400. So if all of those numbers ended up panning out, and then I set aside a 10% cushion for any surprises, anything that might come up that would leave us with a little more than 3,400 for one or more influencers, blogs, whatever we might hash out as far as diving deeper into digital. So, do you have any questions, comments, thoughts on that right now? Or do you want to dive into Travel Indiana and Brad's presentation first, and then?
What is this Ideas in Motion?
So that's GreatNews.Life. They're the ones like they've done the profile of the campground. That's, I don't know why, but that's their corporate name. I'm not sure why I didn't just use it, but.
It's this.
They had
it's
some
in the packet.
information,
It's
yeah,
this
it's in there.
So unless you guys want to discuss any of this first, I will ask Brad to step up to the microphone and do that sound. Yep. So for anyone who does not know, this is Brad Kahn, Conncepts Marketing, local guy. We partnered with him last year. He helped to manage and to expand the content and extend the reach of our social media last year. At one point, we had been working with him on the brochure, the wrap card idea too, that sort of fell by the wayside, and so he had just added a little bit of extra on the social to make up for that. But if you want to talk about any of your observations from last year's work, ideas you have for this year to kind of guide us through what we might want to do before you get a formal proposal to us and hear from them, that would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you, Nathan, and thank you to the board. Thank you for letting me join your meeting today. Just an overview of what was done last year. I was, honored and pleased to help out with tourism marketing. And we basically came up with twice weekly Facebook posts, YouTube posts with custom content graphics and video, promoting Pulaski County businesses, outdoor activities, events. We ran a combination of organic posts and boosted posts targeted to Chicago and 50-mile radius, as that was the indicated desired region and demographics to reach out to and to draw. As far as the organic reach, when we just sent out videos and Facebook posts and things like that, some of the numbers you may or may not have seen came out like in 500, 700, 600. The ones we paid for when we were promoting, restaurants per se, the Corner Deli got 12,000 views. For things to do around Pulaski County on YouTube or Pondview, we got 2,000 and 3,000 views on these. So you can look over that information, or I can prepare it for you from the back end of the tourism website to show specifics for each campaign. But I felt we did a very good job of promoting each area of Pulaski County tourism, whether it's restaurants, shopping, the parks, the canoeing. And I think that we could enhance on that and improve on it beyond just the socials, and we could make your brand stand out and possibly consider YouTube or YouTube TV streaming or Spotify advertising in addition to that. Like Nathan mentioned, I don't have a presentation per se, but it would not take me long to prepare one if I could have any sort of input on what was done last year and what your goals and desires are for this year. I'm happy to prepare that for you in, a short time. Questions?
Questions, ideas? Yeah, please.
We did Facebook and YouTube last year. We did not, we talked about Instagram, but we can always include Instagram and TikTok this year. I think it's becoming more important around here based on my experience and observations working with area businesses. They prefer Facebook, but I'm encouraging more of my clients to get onto Instagram and working with them to start crafting TikTok content. So I appreciate that mention, and I think it's important to consider as well for the future.
Yeah, I think if you could explain to them that each of those platforms have their own demographic.
Right.
Age-wise specifically, that would be very important to our cause.
Right.
Is there any kind of mechanism, like you said you did 2 posts per week that you created, is there any way that people could come to you and say, I'll give an example, like I'm a member of the farmer's market, and if I knew that we had something coming up, is there a way that I'd be able to, go to you or go to this board and say, I want to make sure this gets through on the tourism website?
Yes, I would love to have more input from everyone involved, whether it's upcoming events, something that's more timely. We kept it very general this first time, but
Yeah.
I would love to
I
have
think
it.
it'd be really helpful,
Yeah.
and we could all think about it more. Like I work mostly with nonprofits, so I would say the Community Foundation just launched their calendar. Like that'd be a great place to go mine for information. And we could probably even talk to Leanne and say, how can we get Brad connected with that raw info so that you can harvest the graphic and you can harvest the information. I don't see why the Community Foundation wouldn't want to feed that type of information of local events directly, to you. And maybe even the Chamber of Commerce, has some insider information on events and things going on. We might be able to get some partnerships that are going to help everybody involved here, just get more people's businesses and events and, things that they have going on in Pulaski County scene.
I think those are great ideas. I would encourage that, and the more input, the better. And the more we can link to other websites and to other content for businesses and organizations, the better.
Did your post have links in it on this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
I always
they link
made
to
sure,
businesses.
at the very least, if they had a Facebook page, I linked to that. I'd like to go to their website or any sort of online content they had. I wanted to make sure at least one link was available.
And these posts, were they done, what was the Facebook page that you were doing these posts for?
On the Pulaski County Tourism
Yeah,
Facebook page.
I want to make sure I
Yeah.
got that right. Okay.
For example, the post for, I don't know if you were able to see it or not, everybody's busy. Advertising seems to be something I love to do and am passionate about, but most people are like, it's the last thing when you're dealing with a business or an organization. But for the Tippecanoe River State Park, we mentioned being fed by 88 natural lakes, the most scenic access points, locals and visitors, the hiking, the horseback, the river adventures. We also like to cross promote too between the organizations if we can. Come and stay here, come and eat here. Here are the activities you can do. If you're going to be here overnight, you can do rustic camping, you can do B&B.
Is the name of that Facebook page, is that the one that's like Pulaski County, Indiana?
It's just positive.
Okay. Has anyone on this board thought about trying to make it sound more touristy?
Yeah,
I think, maybe this board can talk about putting together a campaign, like one that I've been involved with for years. We call it Play in Pulaski County. And that just sounds more, just having it the name of our county, I don't think indicates to anybody that it's for the purpose of tourism. Sometimes when I go to look for meeting minutes, I accidentally show up on that Pulaski County page because they just both say it. So I think if we were a little more direct about what we're doing here, it doesn't have to be plain Pulaski County, whatever, but if we did come up with some kind of tagline slogan, it could be tagged on all of it. And other businesses and organizations who count on tourism can use that same tagline, and we can sort of coalesce around the same thing and all benefit from it.
I think branding specifically to that is very important. Nathan and I did work on taglines such as that. I presented to him, and I believe because of the reboot of the website, we wanted to reinforce the Simply Pulaski campaign. So we backed off of those taglines that we worked on in favor of that for last year. But I'm all for specific branding for, this next and future.
Maybe I need to ask Nathan, we dropped the rack card last year. Is that something you want to consider going forward?
I think we should, and I mean, that can either be part of what Brad proposes, or it can be a separate project, so we don't cross, they're all gonna be going to the same end, but if we wanna do a separate contract or whatever, it's a proposal, focus, the money that is allocated from what he brings to us separate from that project, but either way, I think, yes, I really wanna get back on track with that.
I would like to see that myself. So.
I'm sorry, Efren, what did you say?
The rack card, I guess,
Like an 8.5 by 5.5,
Yeah.
card stock.
So it goes in different businesses
piece.
around, so
Yeah.
people can grab that. We had that as an idea last year, but it just didn't develop, and we didn't get it done. So I want to try to make sure that maybe we get back onto that this coming year.
Would it be inappropriate to use some of our funds more for education? We have several businesses in the county that don't market at all. They don't have socials, they don't have websites, they don't. Is there any way that we could help them through marketing the county?
Is marketing this $40,000 our only budget line item?
We
So,
can probably.
What else do we have money for? Where can we spend it?
Well, so we probably could dip into a professional services line item, depending on how we would approach that. But we certainly could spend money on that, whether it's out of this line item or professional services, depending on how we approach it, whether we hire somebody to work with them. But I think there could be value in that.
Teaching them how to put a marketing
Yeah,
plan
I think
together?
that would be great. But if we could give people the tools, then if we give them the tools to do their own marketing, that's potentially less money this board has to spend, because now they think they see the value in marketing and they're gonna spend it themselves. It also gives us a chance to get all those people in a room and say, what else can we do for you? We exist so that we can help your businesses, your organizations, your shops, your establishments. You tell us what's going to help get people through your doors and in your businesses and at your events. And that's how we want to spend our money.
Yes.
So I think it could be dual purpose, be providing an important service for those people. And for us, it could be information collection and let people see who we are and what we're doing and think, this is someone who wants to help me out. So they'll be more forthcoming with information and work with us on our future campaigns and events and want to be a part of, the coalition we're trying to build.
And I think that, as you said, Dan, it could help us to spend less money, or it could help us to free up money to spend in ways that we haven't been able to now. So no, I think there's value in that, in trying to get them to take on some of their own marketing if they're not already. And some of them are doing a great job already, but yeah, I think that's a good point, that there are some just, they're not doing it strongly, or they're only focusing maybe on Facebook and not on other socials, let alone any other sort of opportunities that might benefit from them. Last year when we tried on D.N.R, we did the one co-op ad. I don't know how much it meant, but we did get a few businesses who are interested in putting their stuff in there. So there's a lot of opportunities for educating them, creating new partnerships where maybe depending on what the medium is and where it's going with the target audiences, cutting some of our costs by partnering with individual businesses who want to get prioritized in something. I think that's a great idea to educate them.
A lot of marketing can be done for no cost or very low cost. And I think a lot of businesses who have zero marketing plans think that it's just going to cost a bunch of money. So showing them how easy it can be, I think would be beneficial for their business.
I think that's a great idea, and I also want to add on to creators to come and check out what we have and maybe use their already following to promote our county as well.
Yeah, and that will probably be part of what we do with that remaining like 3,400-ish or more dollars.
Okay. I mean, because they already have the numbers, you know, the views and things like that to help us without us starting from scratch, so.
And some of these, you can get them here without having to pay them as well. So, and I think between a lot of the businesses here or businesses in the county, we could, between, you know, free meals at restaurants or free accommodations, we can all pitch in to help their experience without having to necessarily tap into the budget.
Brad, the images that you use when you're creating posts, where do you get those from? Like, have we provided you with images, or are you making them, or how are you getting them?
I sought those out from their online content, be it their website or their Facebook pages, supplemented by content that I get from licensed creators, services that can provide content that isn't necessarily generic, but would suggest offerings that they have.
Because that's another opportunity. If we get all these stakeholders in the same room and say, we've got a platform, we can help push your stuff out. We could hopefully harvest some of our own things to pass on to you. You know, if you've got images of your business or your event, or even local photographers who have images here in Pulaski County, I think any of that stuff that we can procure for ourselves, that would be a pretty low cost effort to get to you, I think would be beneficial. And then all the posts that you have been making, I know that they live, you know, online, but is there, you know, some kind of file, like an electronic post bank that has images? Like, could I have access to, or not me, but this board or Nathan, his office? Like, do we own those things that
Since
you made and can
since
use
you
them?
paid for them, I could absolutely put them onto a drive, or flash
I was gonna say,
drive,
like, some
or
of those
some
are
backup
probably
resource
pretty-
that you could access.
Yeah, especially if we
Yeah.
start moving in the direction of a campaign with taglines, there are going to be some pretty basic posts that could just be, you know, that need to be posted once a quarter, or some seasonal things. And if we just if we just owned those, then we'd be able to post some things ourselves if we wanted to. Okay, we have this basic set of content that we always are rotating, then we can use the money for more targeted campaigns once we have our baseline of Pulaski County tourism, whatever that is becoming. And it's like, okay, we're set on this and we're always getting people here under this campaign. What's next?
Yeah.
And I know you said that you mostly focus on Chicago and within a 50-mile radius, but what about within a 50-mile radius within here? There's a lot of people who already have traditions of going to Monticello or whatever. Can you piggyback off of that of like, hey, while you're here anyways, come check out all of these other things that are really close by?
Right. I think some of the organic posts did reach those areas, but this just came from the target from Nathan and I's discussions last year of what the primary was. We can make it, we can rotate it. We can start with Chicago, we can go to South Bend, Indianapolis, whatever is the desire of the board, we can do, absolutely.
Is it too, instead of rotating, is it too hard to add on additional areas? I know in the last year, I've had quite a few people coming from Cincinnati. So I added that to my marketing area as well, because we're only 2.5, 3 hours from there.
Whenever you add a lot of locations to one post, you're getting less hits for your money because it takes more to reach out that broadly. So I would say, you know, having a targeted post to a specific area, and then just, I can't think anything past, you know, rotating that or including that in some sort of rotation, you know, as opposed to a broad spray. Does that make sense? Okay.
So you could potentially, that's what you mean by rotating. So this one's.
What I mean is like, say, this campaign for Tippies, we set out to Indianapolis and 50 miles. This that we do for a B&B, we are gonna, that's a bad example. Let's say for Refined, maybe we want to do it for their Super Bowl promotion that they just did. That's something we would want to focus a boosted post perhaps on this area and a 60-mile radius. But I wouldn't want to do it for come see, do Pulaski County and have Cincinnati, Indianapolis, South Bend, because you're spreading your dollars too thin in those areas. You'd get more bang for your buck in Cincinnati than you would if you concentrated
And
the
that's
bulk of
usually
the
what rotates
spending.
close to different
Yeah.
areas.
Any other thoughts, questions, comments, directions for Brad going forward before like he gets us a formal proposal?
When you selected, like, what was posted about, was it this board that said, you know, these are the types of posts, like an event post, a post about a business, a post about like, was it kind of specific in terms of what you're gonna post about and when, or was that all up to your discretion?
We gave him, I guess you'd say, general parameters and left the case by case to him.
Mhm. And I would always send out a week prior to any scheduled post for Nathan to have a final look over to make sure all content was correct and proper.
I mean, we could consider as a board, I'm sure your discretion is wonderful, but if we had, you know, made a decision that we wanted to target certain things, or there's certain timing, you know, over the summer, getting things out there about campgrounds and Airbnbs versus, you know, Christmas events in the winter, whatever it may be, like, we may as a board want to put our heads together and say, this is what we want targeted at certain times, and maybe direct that a little bit more if we want to just make sure that certain things, I feel like he's pretty receptive to, you know.
I would welcome informed
directing
input.
you. I've made a lot of social
Absolutely.
media posts, and sometimes anyone who doesn't know, sitting there with that blank page in front of you is the hardest part. So I
Yeah.
feel like if we were able to, again, that last meeting goes back to that, try to harvest that schedule of events for the whole year, which is something we could do if we got all those people in a room for a marketing seminar. Say, okay, Refined has got their Super Bowl thing, and Uptown's doing this, and, you know, the campground's got their special this weekend. The more of those things we have ahead of time, the more we can funnel those through to the people that we're paying to get people to Pulaski County for us. If we can do some of that background work, I think it would be helpful.
Agreed.
And I think the majority of the budget should be used during the peak time, and maybe the month leading into it. But I'm a seasonal business, but I know some businesses in this area are not seasonal. So they have.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a peak time, and that, you know, I think that there are definitely businesses that are all year, and there's definitely a lot of holiday stuff that goes on in Pulaski County. But again, I think trying to compile that list, like, let's know it for sure, you know, let's get it all down on paper or in a spreadsheet, and let's know what really is the peak time. Certainly won't be surprised when it is over the summer and camping, but I think the best thing we could do to make sure that when we go and say, this is why we spent the money this way, it's because this is when everyone's coming to Pulaski County. I think that just makes the case for us spending our money properly and maybe getting to spend more of it next year.
Our schedule last year started in May, I believe it was, and ended in October.
Yeah, we got a much later start, even with discussing with Brad than we've been able to this year.
And that being said, you know, we of course would promote the Francisville Fall Festival in September, and I started to back off of the farmer's market, for instance, towards the end of September.
I was going to ask if you could just share some thoughts on timing, I guess. It seems, maybe you can correct me, it seems like if you're advertising for Francisville Fall Festival, you're wanting to advertise the weeks leading up to it. Whereas if you're advertising for a campground, you might be wanting to advertise 6 months in advance. People are planning their vacations.
Right.
So I just, you agree with that, or is it kind of hitting the right area?
It depends on what the focus of your campaign is, if you're trying to draw them specifically for the summer months or year round. I would come up with a different campaign around the time of the crane cruise than I would for, you know, Memorial Day.
Okay.
All right, so what do we want from Brad?
I would say on more social media platforms. I don't even care if they all have the same post. Does anybody else? I know once you get big into it, you want them to all be different. But at this point in the game, let's just get on them all. Who cares if it's the same post?
You can also vary the post like I do between Instagram and Facebook for my clients and YouTube. You know, it's the same campaign with a little different spin. And you can do the same thing with TikTok and Instagram.
I think that, yeah, TikTok would be, what they say, what do they say? TikTok is for they don't know you, they just want to find things to do. And Instagram is more about knowing who you are. And
Correct.
And so I think TikTok would even play a bigger part than Instagram.
I would agree.
So, okay, 2 follow-up questions to that. Last year, we ended up doing, I think it was $1,000 a month for 6 months for a $6,000. What number do we want to ask Brad to at least come close to in crafting this proposal? Do we want to say 6,000? Do we want to give a little more room to expand some of, especially if it means expanding some of the platforms?
So that breaks down to about $125 a post. Is that including the ads for that for Meta and Google, or is that just your fee?
I think the way we did it last year was, and I don't know if it was an exact 50-50 split, but part of it was going towards his actual work, part of it was content acquisition and paying for Meta ads.
It all depended on the schedule and how much content you want to put out and pay for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but not all posts need to be pushed as ads.
Right. And they weren't. We had a fair share of organic ads too.
If we can increase the amount of platforms and maybe increase the frequency just a little bit, I would be open to a little bit more budget.
If we, like, if on our end, if we put together, you know, helped source some of the material for you and helped, you know, make contact with some of these businesses, organizations, you know, places that want people coming to their establishment, and we're able to funnel some things down through you.
Right.
And would that help be able to get more posts?
Yeah, well, I meant the frequency. So instead of twice a week, can we go up to
Yeah.
3 times a week on 4 platforms instead of 2?
I will work within whatever budget you have. And like you said, with content provided, that takes less time for me researching and culling that and more time putting it together, scheduling it.
Would there be anything else that we could do without us having to do something that's labor intensive that could reduce the cost for us? Like, is there a platform that you use, Saska or anything like that can help you generate some of these posts so that it's less effort on your part?
The dreaded AI conversation. And I'll just say that I do use some AI carefully and cautiously to check content that I'm using, to check graphics. I think oftentimes I look around the area and see on social media content that looks a lot like the next, that looks a lot like the next, that looks like the next. And I think it's very important to have your specific branding and keep the human element in there. But as far as generating content ideas and focusing those ideas, it's a helpful tool. And right now it doesn't cost anything, but it's the Wild West and it ain't gonna last forever. They're gonna start charging you soon.
So do we want to give him a cap on what his proposal's budget should be? Or a range?
Well, I hate to jump around here, but you all know I'm not a huge fan of Travel Indiana. Is that digital marketing or is that magazine marketing?
That'll be both. That'll be both. We've got room to play with Brad's.
His is just more direct. It is more
Right.
The
personal.
Travel Indiana is the magazine, and the only thing that's digital is basically a picture of the ad. They don't have like live links or anything like that.
But I mean,
It's
they do,
digital.
like, email us, and we'll get it. But what I'm saying, Christie, is that whether or not we continue working with Travel Indiana, we've got, like, even as I drafted it, we've got a 25% increase over last year allocated to Brad to start the conversation.
Right.
So what's going to Travel Indiana could go towards either more towards Brad, it could go towards social. go towards the cushion. We've got room to play regardless of our decision.
Okay.
As long as there is a consensus of the platforms and the targets that you want to reach, all work within the budget that's provided. I did earlier mention Spotify and YouTube TV and streaming. I'm just going to say, put that in the back of your mind. I'm just tapping into that locally here in small pieces, but those are things too, thinking about where people are listening and also what they're watching on their phones beyond just the socials.
How much is the average, what is the cost? I don't even have a starting off point of what the cost is, but I've seen it on, we all have streaming, right? We all see the ads, and I've seen some localized things, and I didn't even know, like, what is the starting point to even get on that?
For instance, if I were looking to do it, they were going to want you to probably spend hundreds of dollars, but I could put $100 into a budget, and when that's gone, it reaches however many people click and respond to it. It's just like Facebook or, other platforms where it's a per click, and you set a budget, and when that budget's gone, you either put more into it or.
Okay. Is everybody good with the 7,500? Do you want more?
Beth, do you have any comments? Are you good with 7,500?
She frozen?
Oh, no, I'm good. It's good. Sorry.
All right. You have some guidance.
Okay, what type of a timeline would you prefer to have something to go over? It will take a little bit of time to call.
Want to, A, if we get the proposals, we send it out, and there's a lot of good consensus, I don't think we need to come back to a meeting just to approve it, but if there are a lot of questions, pushback, tweaks we want to make, we may need to, so I guess it's kind of up to you guys how you want to proceed with that. And obviously, we may need to schedule a meeting again sooner rather than later to cover other things on here, but how do you want to proceed with this timeline and how we address the proposal?
I would say at minimum beginning of quarter two.
I say sooner than later. I had 3 people book my Airbnbs last week, so I would like the people to see them last week.
How long do you need?
I could prepare a general proposal within a couple of weeks, and you could take that and we could be more specific if you want to tweak that and change platforms or focus or targets.
I'd be a fan of that. I mean, basically send us something as soon as you have a rough draft of it, and that way we can go back and
A
forth
working
little bit.
proposal.
Yeah, a working proposal.
And that'll
So
give
we
us
can
time
think
to
more.
decide if we need to reconvene
Yeah.
in person to go over it, or if we all are comfortable with it.
Okay.
And you're gonna email that out to us,
As soon as I have it from Brad, I'll send it out.
all right?
If it's fairly minor tweaks, probably don't even need, if we've got some real concerns and need to hash it out, we'll get back together, otherwise I'll authorize it and ask Diana to sign off if necessary.
Okay,
Cool. Thank you,
so
sir.
within a couple of weeks, I'll have something. Thank you for your time. Appreciate the input.
Like I said, please help yourself to some pizza.
I'm good, thank you very much.
Take some home then. All right, then we will, you guys want to take a formal vote on approving the 75, or do you just want to wait till we have something in front of us to approve? Okay, cool. Then we will move along in the agenda to Gravel, Indiana. Do you mind passing these down? Some of them are duplicates, some of them are not.
While we're doing that, just as secretary, we need to approve these minutes that are listed on the agenda.
They were approved in the consent agenda.
Okay, very good, all right.
Everything up there is good.
Very good, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that, I guess.
Thank you. So we had met with Amy DeLong at our last meeting. I know a couple of, Christian, you weren't here for that. Everyone else in the room was here for that. And I did put her proposal back in here. We've gotten even more pushback raised at the beginning of this year than last year, and said, can you come back again, going more on digital, and she did, but as Diana suggested, there is only so much they can do on the digital side because they are primarily a print entity.
Does anybody read these that are here?
I I'll be honest, I don't read Indiana's, I get Michigan's or somebody in the state. When I'm going to those states for vacation, I'll get one of these.
I seen this for the first time in my life.
Well, yeah, I don't
When I was
necessarily
there.
look at this one, but I do like
Yes.
stuff like
I
this
do
when I'm
too,
traveling.
I do too. I look on TikTok.
I intentionally looked for this.
That's my point.
I do.
Well, and I have read several of these, and
TikTok or Facebook?
they're not bad. They're not great. And because I've advertised in this magazine before, which did nothing for me, and if it did, wasn't able to source how that worked. But I get a stack of these every time there's a new one, and I can't even give them away. If anything, campers take them to use them as fire starter. So I just, if there are some of you who are like, yeah, I read it all the time. I know people who read it. I know people who love it. Like, this is hard for me.
I guess I would say this. The good thing with this is we have all different ages of people that travel throughout Indiana. And our older generation are not going to do TikTok for the most part, or Facebook. Maybe more Facebook than anything. They'll pick this up. So, I mean, that's just something to think about, is all of our
Yeah,
ages.
it's gonna be all encompassing.
Mhm,
Yeah, for sure.
mhm.
And I can agree with that. But we also have to remember that when you say older generation, what age are you talking about?
Well, even people my age, and I'm kind of old, are not generally into TikTok, but some are. But I think we're at that
But like you said,
stage too.
Facebook, they look at Facebook.
Some do. I mean, I know some that have no knowledge of that, don't even know where to start.
So
So,
they're probably older than you.
could be. I mean, I know some people my age and even younger that want nothing to do with that.
Okay.
But I don't know if that would be a
Could I
nice
also say
way to go
something,
this way. I'm just
on
putting
that
out there.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. I can't tell when there's a break. But I wanted to say I don't watch TikTok myself either. But unfortunately, all of those reels that make it out past TikTok, it starts there. So even on Facebook, a lot of those things that you see, that's where they start. But I agree with you totally that each way has its own. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, TikTok is where those reels have to originate in order to make it to the Facebook, to make it to, different generations. And so I just wanted to point that out, that all of those things do kind of trickle down and ultimately spread to other platforms as well. So.
Yes. Well, and the point I was trying to make is we shouldn't spend almost 10% of the budget on 1% of people who don't participate in any kind of social media.
For me, I feel like it's a little bit of a targeting thing. I think if you say, I do want to catch a certain crowd that might read this magazine, maybe we don't need an entire year-long campaign that takes up a quarter of a budget. Maybe one time we do in peak season, a nice one-page ad that says, come to power from the past and, stay at these places, or, I just happened to flip through this and thought, they're doing their covered bridge festival or whatever. If we had our thing that was like, this draws in certain type of people who've been coming to power from the past for years, or insert some other event that we want to highlight. And then from that, we're going to get people eating at restaurants, filling up at gas stations, staying at Airbnbs, B&Bs, camping at the campgrounds. Like, it could be more targeted like that, rather than just allocating $10,000 for a year-long campaign that Travel Indiana decides what to put in there. Let's us decide exactly what we spend the money on, so that it reaches the people we think it's most likely to reach in this scenario.
That sounds good.
And I was gonna bring up what you have talked about today and last meeting on maybe if we, and some of you as opposed to just us in the office, like take a little more ownership in what the content looks like, whether we end up doing the 3 quarters of the year, or we see if they can do like a 1 or 2 quarter where we do a bigger ad. Like, if we are taking more ownership of that instead of just saying, here's what we want to cover, put it together, maybe there's more about it.
It's a lot to take on, doing a whole campaign for our county. So I think if we can think about what can we do this year, what can we dip our toe into, whether it be a few super targeted ads and see how that works, Then in the fall of this year, when stuff is winding down, we say, okay, now we have the whole winter to really lock in what worked, what didn't work, and how we're gonna do it better for the next year. You know, we might just need to pick some things that are worth trying, because it's hard to do everything all at once. So if we pick some really targeted things, I think we can track those and see how they go. And if it works well, do more of it in another way. If it doesn't work as well as you want, then we try again.
I like that idea.
Well, and just to be very clear, I was just bringing that to the point, but I don't know who's at the end. I agree with you totally. I do think that there is value in print. I value that too. I like to look and see an ad in print. So I do think that demographic is more drawn to print ads in some way. I think we just have to, like Diana said, just kind of try some more targeted things instead of spending a ton of money and trying to like kind of spray information out and pray that it hits the right people.
What about, okay, and maybe this is just, I do look at some printed stuff, but typically I want more, this is literally just a book of ads. So can we even ourselves do something that's more meaningful? Be like a great story, a great historical something.
I mean,
or
I think
other.
that's an option, is getting, I mean,
And then we can throw in the rest of the county as a small blurb, but like this is just a targeted ad. It's just, again, it's all ads. And so they're all doing the same thing. And so we're not really competing because 100% of this is the same thing. But if we had a really cool, fun story or a historical fun fact or, you know, a great, you know, heart-touching thing in here that was, you know, a page long versus this is where our ad is in here this time.
And so okay, yeah. So that,
Here's the one for this one.
the one you know, Christie, that's part of what we're doing in the school year, and so the first quarter, they highlight citations. So that, I think that's the whole premise there, is like mapping out.
Right, and it's not bad, it's just that the whole magazine
Sure.
seems to be an ad. So if we could stand out in a way so that somebody, you know, the read worthy, you know, because when I do read print, I want to read the story. I want to read, you know, I love reading books. So for me, it's more about that than just flipping through a million ads. And so I don't know if that's something that we can consider if we're going to stay with some kind of print. And you
well, that's
bet.
something that Travel Indiana said they could do, was like a half-page ad with an editorial
And we
article
do
with
sometimes
it.
like the one Vernon has.
Yeah, this is 2 pages right there. Pulaski County. And that's that kind of standard. And if you do a web search on Pulaski County through Google, that's just going to pop up. So on this article. So.
I have a weird question, but
Yeah.
how are people that are retired targeted? Does that make sense? Like, is there some sort of retirement magazine or something?
Yeah.
See, I don't know if I think that's a very good question, but I don't know if there is, I'm not aware of a good medium, whether it's print or digital, that would target that demographic in such a way that it's focused on the realistic geographic areas, like Chicagoland and the 50-mile or so radius from here. And like AARP, that's going to like, I don't think they do like state editions of AARP magazine. I think the copy my parents get is the same copy that my dad's cousin in Nebraska gets. And so I don't know if there is a specific avenue that targets retired age people that you can narrow geographically, other than.
Well, if we all think about it, I mean, that we can table this. If we go all out and ask some retired people, I know this sounds silly, but like when you're planning a trip, where do you look, or what things are you interested in? I mean, I feel like they're traveling and they're doing things, and maybe that can give us some insight as to how to reach that demographic, either in print or digital. But it seems like they're some of them are kind of movers and goers and shakers, and maybe we can figure out a really good targeted way to reach, you know, the retired people who are traveling around our state.
I think we have the start of a great way. We've got people who are business owners, and, you know, we've got Airbnb owners, campgrounds here. I think we, amongst ourselves, could make it our mission to talk to these people. Like, that's the easiest, cheapest way to start. Is a lot of people sitting up here have businesses that retired people come to, and I think it's we could, at the very least, you know, and a lot of us who do events and things like that, we can all make an effort. And once we, you know, say we do our little marketing summit for people and we get contacts all throughout the county who want to capitalize on tourism, we have friends who we can say, guys, this is what we're working on. We're trying to figure out how to reach retired people. And then we work on how we reach young people. How do we reach families? And we just tackle these issues. And we have our hands in all of these, you know, places. We have a person, a contact that we can, you know, hopefully collect information from.
Yeah.
I think it'd be an
Hey,
easy
Tom,
place to start.
Tom, do you ever do any surveys and ask people how they hear about you when they stay at your places?
Did you say, Tom, do you do surveys to see where they heard about you?
No, but we can look up their information and see how, like, where they come from. They always, you know, give us a list of what they're coming to do, and
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I think you provided me that
I did.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think Vernon did, which,
Yeah.
for the most part, it was what we expected, I think.
We get quite a few snowbirds as well, and I think there's more of them on digital forms than we realize. And I think the whole.
Hold on. You get snowbirds, what do you say? I know the concept of snowbirds, but what are you saying that you get snowbirds? People coming from where?
A lot of them will come from, what is that, what is the coast right there in Alabama? Gulf Shores?
So you're
I've
saying
got
that
some in
people-
Florida.
Rather than maybe coming back to having a permanent home anymore, they
Yes.
get camping at the campground in the
Yes.
summer, and then they're heading south.
Yes.
Okay.
So their winter home, they own their home in
So
Florida.
they're.
It's
Well,
like
they
the
own-
opposite.
Opposite.
Yes, it's the opposite.
Sunbirds.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
They want to get out of the humidity of Florida, they want to get out of the humidity of Alabama, that seems to
Hurricane
be
season and that's what, okay.
correct,
That's
yes. I get a couple from, what is that, Georgia? Anyways, and a lot of them are people who have family here, who eventually moved down there to be snowbirds, but now like to come back to spend the summers here because their kids and grandkids are here. And so they bring their RV here. And so a lot of them, I think, are more digitally, and when we say retired, that age group is so big. I mean, you've got like 60, 90-year-olds, it's huge. And you get to that upper portion of it, they're not traveling as much. They're not, or they are seem to get more in a rhythm. They go to the same places. And so I think when we're talking about retired, we, you know, and you know, I don't know very many people who retire in their 50s anymore, which is too bad, but I think we should aim more at that. If you're like, how are these retirees? Maybe that younger portion of that retirees. But a lot of them are more digital than you realize. They'll come and show me videos and stuff, and have you seen this? And well, sometimes even the things, because we were new here, you know, 3.5 years ago, the stuff in our area, they were the ones showing me Facebook posts and websites and different things. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know crane was a bird before I moved here, you know? I didn't know blueberry picking was a thing here until my sun chasers, what did you call them, sunbirds?
Sunbirds.
They're the ones that are showing me these websites and these social media posts. And so I wouldn't count them out digitally. The people that I do have that are digital, you know, the ones that don't want to pay in cash and, you know, all the things, it's such a slim market. It really is. I would hate to put so much budget for such a small market.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that we can't do print. I do like the idea of doing it more targeted versus a yearly thing. But I think we're not giving retirees enough credit. But I tend to find out that my retirees are coming because there's family in the area. I also get a couple that comes here every year. Their family's actually in Michigan. They'll spend a month with me, and then they do, because the UP is still cold, and then they'll head to the UP and travel around or do Wisconsin. They do, you know, like the Dells and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know why they choose Indiana.
Well, let me, I guess, summarize a little bit. We've had this discussion about every meeting about this. And I'm a fan of the travel Indiana, just because I use other states. You know, that's one of my vacation ways, is to go see what kind of thing they have, so they can send it to me and I can just leaf through it. But I also know that I'm in the minority. That most people here are saying, nah, this is not the way we need to be doing this. So I'm thinking, I can see that you guys would rather put your money elsewhere than travel Indiana, unless I'm misjudging anybody.
If I wish,
What's the other opinions here?
I wish there was a bigger statistic of which group was bigger, right? Like, is it family ages and Kelsey, you hit on it. When you want to find a great place to go on vacation and you want to find fun things to do in that area, like, how are you finding out the cool things to do?
I go to TikTok or Instagram and I type in what can I do in Madison, Indiana, or I have done Facebook or Instagram and I've looked up like their main street organizations, their chambers, just to see what events are happening while we're there. But a lot of it is TikTok.
So I used to do that, but I am on this new wave that not everybody loves. And so when we go on vacation, I want to know, compare prices or compare areas or compare things to do. I ask AI. And so the more, and the AI is feeding off of what we put on our socials more so than they are in our other forms of marketing. And so that's just something to consider, is there's a huge population
So
moving
where does
to that.
AI get its information?
Your social media.
Everything.
Really?
Mhm.
So let me ask this.
Pulls it from everywhere.
Do I, at this point, go back to Trouble, Indiana and say, thanks, it's been real, but we're not, or do I first go back and see if Amy can rescope this to be either just Q2 or Q2 and Q3, and, forget like the itinerary, focus on something where we're doing more of the actual content and they're cleaning it up, they're formatting it, and we're going with something like we did in 2019, where it's telling a story, and we just kind of needed to figure what story we want to tell that we think is going to get people here on half a page of words.
I think Diana made a good point about the targeted with Travel Indiana.
I mean, I think
So
that's
I'm not
the-
against
yeah.
Travel
I mean,
Indiana.
that's the step back that I think needs to be taken is the age-old debate that is happening on this board of digital versus print is one thing, but I think the decision maker for all of it is, what are we advertising? What are we putting out there, and who do we want to see it or hear it? And I think that's gonna help dictate whether the print is the right answer or TikTok is the right answer or any of those things. If we can get our heads wrapped around much more specifically, what in Pulaski County, who in Pulaski County, coming from where to do what, if we can answer all of those questions, then I think that's gonna help push us in the direction that needs to be taken to get people to visit here.
Agreed. What is the experience?
Yes.
And I think that I would be open to Q2 and Q3 with very specific experience storytelling ads versus, and I think that.
I think part of the cost would be a.
I think that's a start, it's a step in the direction. Yeah. like you said.
Okay, I'll see what Amy can do for us.
Let me just ask a question. Q2, Q3. So we're trying to get summer and fall at that point,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I mean, it's.
That's Q2 is coming out in the spring, it's for summer. Q3 would be the summer for the fall. Okay.
Cool. Okay. So I will reach out to Amy and see if she can rescope this one more time and talk about how we can have more of a direct role in the content, and gonna have to rely on all of us then to figure out at least what story we want to tell, if not every detail that we want to make sure that we're giving them enough to go with that and feel we're getting value. If we can't get that hashed out, we will move on.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I think if we did, us as like a board saying, this is the type of experience that we want to put out there, and then we have the chance to tell businesses who think they can fit that experience, to say, we want to be the one featured or whatever, then they're going to want to work with us and give us the information we need and help be a part of that process. But I think the more organized we are, the better it looks like we have, the more we actually have our ducks in a row, the more people are going to trust us and want to work with us to help them get their story told.
And what about, and this is just an idea, but like, what if we took it a little step further and made it more personal? For example, I have a family who they met in high school from both camping in Pulaski County. And they've been married, they have 5 kids, they have 10 grandkids, and they still camp every single summer in Pulaski County. They do, if you ever want to know what there is to do in the area, they know everything about it. What if we took like a more personal, they're from Chicago, all 5 of their kids live in Chicago and all their grandkids live in Chicago, and they come down every single weekend to this area. What if we went and made like, shared their story of what Pulaski County meant to
I
them,
think
and
that
how they
sounds really
met.
good.
They've been married for
I like
Decades.
that idea. I will only ask you as follow. Are they, I mean, I'd like to think over the decades of doing this, yes, are they coming here and are they coming over to Winnemac to get tenderloins at Jack's or pizza at Tippy's? Are they coming to the state park? Are they just coming, or are they just taking advantage just of the camp?
Oh, no, if you want to know what to do in the area, they are the people to talk to. They will tell you, and they'll tell you, like, don't camp at Friends Park, but you can go there to do this and this and this because that's what's fun. And you can go, they'll tell they know when every single weekend festival is. And they're the ones that give me a heads up of like, hey, this is going on in this town, and this is going on in this town. Like they will tell you where the best ice cream is. They will tell you, and I don't even know if this is something they would want to do. I was just thinking of like a way to like share a heartwarming story.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's awesome. I think that's wonderful.
Okay.
Can you reach out to them and see if they would be interested in?
I can.
I'll float the idea to Amy and see if like we could.
Do you want me to reach out to them yet? I don't usually see them till summertime, but I can. I have their number on file. I can call them. I just don't want to call them and then we don't even need their story for 2 more months or whatever.
It just like, would you mind just saying, hey, would you be open to this? Don't
Okay.
don't make it a long conversation. We're trying to get every detail down. Like, if everything falls in line, once you're down here, would you be okay with sitting down with you and or me and or somebody from travel, whatever, and sharing that? Maybe we can get Bradley, we set up a camera, and if they're willing to assign a waiver, like we can even put down bits and pieces of it on social media too.
Okay.
Tell the story. I love that idea.
Yeah, I do too. That's a
Cool.
great idea.
I like it as long as, we're focusing on what they're bringing in, then why they're coming here.
Asking the right
And
questions.
advertising businesses, I mean, that's what our board is here. We're not just doing a feature on somebody that's visiting here. It's actually, how are we promoting tourism by featuring them? We need to keep that as the,
Yeah.
what we're doing, I guess.
Yeah, but it takes away from the making it look so much like an ad.
Mhm.
And putting a personal touch on it is, I mean, they were huge fans of Miss Kitty. They were devastated when she was like, I heard from them first before anyone else. And I know they bought their peacocks or something. So they, I think it would be a great idea, but it would come back to why they keep coming back to this area.
Okay. And I guess we just need to keep our focus straight. You mentioned businesses and helping them with social media. And I was thinking during that time, so well, let's focus on businesses that are doing tourism and bringing people to the county. I mean, there's a lot of businesses in here that are just serving the people that are already here. We don't need to be worried about that. That's not our responsibility.
Well, no, I just, sometimes, a lot of times sometimes we make decisions based on what our kids want. Sometimes we make decisions based on what touches our heart. And so, if we can give a mix of, for families, here's stuff that for your kids, then we draw in that because kids dictate a lot of that. If we can do like, oh, this is a very heartwarming, touching story, and these people have been coming here for decades and they continue to, let's go try out.
Do they bring their kids or grandkids down? Or?
The whole work, yeah.
If they're willing
So
to
they
go,
have
I'll
5
just-
seasonal sites now at my,
Oh, wow.
so they've been at Acorn Oaks, which they almost left towards the end of the sellers, but we know that. But they were hanging on because they were there they've had their seasonal spot there for 25 years. And so it went from 1 trailer with young kids to now 5 trailers with their kids staying in there and their grandkids.
I love it. Okay. If you don't mind, at least just seeing,
Yeah.
I will reach out to Amy, see if she can craft something more towards where we're going and hope that it comes. Otherwise, we'll just forget that much more in the budget. Great news. ideas in motion. As I said last meeting, I love working with them. They're very responsive. They're very good about coming up with ideas what they want to cover and looking for contacts where they can reach out directly and asking us for input. But it's digital, but it's also more geographically narrow. Sort of the opposite problem of potentially of Traveling Indiana. It's digital, but whereas Traveling Indiana is covering the whole state, they're really just covering north, central, northwest Indiana. It's obviously a good market to target, but is $11,000 or so dollars is, they predict there's a guarantee almost that they're going to increase a little bit every October, I think, and then what we pay in April, October is the same as the previous October, April, and then they'll raise it again, and it just grow along. It's good. They actually send people down here sometimes to get their photograph, to do coverage, to get video footage, to interview people, like they actually interview people from the Power from the past. I love working with them, but as much as they cover, and you can see in your packets some of the stuff that they covered last year on pages 14, 15, and 16, and 17, I believe, with some data on page 18. Like, as aggressive as they are in coverage every year, like at what point is there a little bit of a diminishing return on investment because they're covering the same thing just because they run out of, I mean, it's good, especially something like a power show where the make and models of tractors or equipment they're covering changes every year. There might be, depending for the really hardcore people, it might be a little bit of change in market, but I think it's a great partnership. I just don't know if it's great enough for a budget that's increasing every year. And I had proposed at last meeting, if we don't want to make a decision on this yet, when we get close to the April renewal, before I sign off on that, if a couple of you want to hop on a call with me and somebody from Great News and talk about it, and we can come back and say we still see the value or not, I'm open to that as opposed to making this decision right now or leaving it in my hands.
Do we know if this, like, the data you have on here, is this?
I'm not sure. It's a little bit, I was noticing it's like, obviously they're leading in the market, but it's not clear what those numbers are and what it is telling us.
And the timeline of it, like, I wish there was more analytics on what this all looked like. Is there a way to scale back? And what is it like? How much are we getting? And this is where, like, there's no analytics. How much are we getting now? What if we scaled back? How much would that cost? Is this,
Especially in those sort of off-season months of like October to April, if there's like a light package sort of thing.
does this company only market companies that sign up with them as well? Isn't that kind of a
What do you mean?
well, like, if we don't have this, are we not, I mean, if this is only for northern Indiana, they're very limited based on who is willing to pay.
Sure, yes.
And so if we back out, does that mean we're not? Okay, so then there's a whole bunch of people not enlisted in here anyways.
What do you mean?
Well, counties or businesses that don't pay are not listed. And so I think that, I don't know where I'm going with that. I just feel like it's.
Well, I know, for example, Christie, maybe this will help you, because they've come to the park and done special reports on us and done some really nice articles, but we don't pay anything. I assume that maybe they're doing that because it's Pulaski County.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
I would assume Pulaski County's paying for it and they're featuring you.
Right, yeah, I guess I assumed that, I didn't even know, because I get a call from them, and they say, well, hey, we're gonna come down there and cover your ACON, they've covered that, they've covered the bike race in the summer, and they've done some things like that, they've done some really nice articles, and they usually send a photographer that takes some really great photos, but yeah, like, they just told me that, so they just come.
So this kind of gets to a little bit of what we were talking about with Brad about engaging the local businesses, like, rather than just the county as a whole. And you know, what they cover varies, and we try not to repeat too much so that everyone's getting a fair share. But we're essentially stepping in and helping to advertise specific businesses or events. Like I said, we did a profile of the campground after you guys bought it and started turning things around. I think we did one of Tippy's when Sheila moved it to the new location. They'll do events like the crane cruise and egg hunts. It's a mix of like events and business profiles if it's a business that is going to attract people to the community. That's it.
But I'd say I appreciated the article you did in the park, but actually.
And I did too, the one they did for mine.
Okay, because it was something that I immediately shared on our Facebook page and got a lot of response from that. Because, and like I said, we had a photographer that had some really good photos that you could use too with that.
So my question would be, can we get more analytics of what this looks like versus just this graph that has no time on it? And then also, what are the different options for scaling back so that we can see, like, what are we getting for the money?
So how about I try to get that information? Like I said, we will get a contract renewal probably in March. See if the timing can line up, we can get that information, have a couple of you want to call with me, with them, to ask any questions we have, at least based on what they can tell me in response to this, and make the decision a little bit closer based on what they're able to report back and what's that call looks like.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Well, and like what Diana said, like maybe when we scale back, maybe we would just do April to October and not do October to April.
Chamber might be heartbroken if we don't come and do the electric parade. They're here every year for the Winter Wonderland Parade. But I think we have some room to do. And
I think it's crazy that this is probably just the increase in price. I'm like, well, we're spending more in the wintertime, but our businesses are mostly in the summertime, but that's probably just a cost of increase.
it's just the calendar they're on is a calendar year, so.
Got it.
And I think there's still more opportunity for, more targeted things. If we can look at, if we had, a schedule of when we knew things are gonna be posted and done, we could do some proactive work to know what's going on. And then also, I think there's a lot of power in profiling a single business, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. But in some of these places, I wonder if it's possible to have a focus on where to stay in Pulaski County, and it's all the different places.
And
More of a showcase, where to eat in Pulaski County, the parks in Pulaski County, like if we can have these groupings to hit more
I
than
think
one
we've done that
day.
sometimes, and so like, in addition to the actual coverage, when we're paying for them, I believe they kind of just maintain a calendar. So even if they don't cover the poker run at Tippecanoe, assuming that, that they'll have that on their calendar. So they will do stuff like that. And depending on what it is we're focusing on in any particular article, and depending on how in depth it is, how much is going on. So like when we had them do the Pulaski, we made sure to say, hey, if you get down here on whatever day, you can check out Gilsinger's John Deere Museum while you're in Pulaski. You can check out Bill and Bates or shoot up to Winnemac for dinner. Like we made sure it's like, you're not just gonna come here to spend a little bit of time driving through the lights. There's other stuff that you can. So we do try to do that, and they're usually pretty amenable to that, depending again on how much coverage a particular event or business they're addressing requires to tell the story.
I think part of what you're saying too, though, is calendar of events for some of these businesses, not just.
For everybody in the world to come
Oh,
to
yeah,
Pulaski.
no, I'm just saying.
Do we need to have a central location to where we can funnel this information into? Because if I have a calendar of events, but I haven't shared it with anyone.
So I think, I'd love to talk to Leanne, because they just went through this whole process. Like, a group I'm with used to do Pulaski County calendar, and it's kind of morphed into the Community Foundation calendar, which is pretty exclusively for nonprofits. But I think they'd be a great person to talk, Leanne would be a great person to talk to about how their process went. Because lots of places have calendars, and it might be possible, and this takes another step back about like a tourism website, a place that instead of the Community Development Commission being linked, unless is there a link to a tourism website?
There
that I
is,
don't
yes.
know, but so if it can be even more dialed in, instead of saying Community Development Commission, it can have more tourism there, so
We
they
could
know what it's
definitely
for.
have that
And-
conversation with them.
Yeah, easy fix on that, but if we can start having a home where we're the hub for these things, where we're the collector of the information, where we can disseminate it out, and then we have, you know, a link to it. I think Leanne, I think it'd be, like, I'd be happy to talk to Leanne about.
And because I still need to connect with them because we're gonna work on integrating the existing county website calendar into that advice.
Yeah, so all the calendars we can roll up together, and then, and I know the Community Foundation one is embeddable, so if you use that one a lot, you can put it on your own site. So even if it's a matter of collecting a couple different things, I think that'd be better than not having anything. So, yeah, I can talk to Leanne about that and about a way to help get some of the information that gets submitted for the calendar, because I submit information to that calendar all the time. And I would be thrilled if that information found its way to Brad, so he could put my event information out there at the same time he's doing anyone else's. I feel like all the nonprofits that submit would be happy for their information to be passed along. And anytime people are coming into town for events, this increases the likelihood that they'll need somewhere to stay, or that they'll, you know, eat somewhere or shop somewhere, so.
So I've got to have that conversation with Leanne. I will try to get some more information from Great News before we make a decision on that and see if they can narrow the scope a little bit. The next item is D.N.R. D.N.R, I'm going to go to that for all of it. It's not a whole lot. It is the only outlet we use where we're kind of targeting that sector of visitors. We don't get into the hunting, fishing. You know, we touch on it sometimes, but this is the only place where we are saying, hey, we have all these we've got hunt clubs, we've got state park, we have 2 fish and wildlife areas, we've got the river, and as I've said before, it is actually the one that I usually have the most people from out of town mentioning to me, like when we had a broadband consultant, this guy's from like freaking Nashville, Indiana, where they're surrounded by these outfits. I was like, man, I want to come up here just to check it out because I saw that D.N.R magazine and that was a great ad. And so that's one I'm always going to go to bat for. I think, yes, it's print, but it's statewide. It's strategically located in places where that demographic is going, and we don't really do anything with that demographic. You know, in the old TV commercial, we had a couple of really quick shots of somebody hunting, but that was about it. But I think that is worth continuing.
I get a lot of hunters.
As we do too. A lot of people fishing come to our place.
So when we advertise in D.N.R, is it stuff like campgrounds and Airbnbs, or is it about like hunting and fishing? I just haven't seen it. Okay.
And
So get in here for the hunting and fishing, and then.
Well, and I wanna piggyback on that, because the great thing about that magazine is it's literally the only place where you can find the new regulations. So everybody looks at it, everybody has to, everybody makes a point to get a new one every single year, because even the online information isn't accurate sometimes. So, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased. I don't have anything to do with the magazine, but I do know that it reaches a lot of people.
And I've had people comment on it and they're from Michigan, so.
Same, we have Michigan, hold on.
Is she going?
Yeah. That looks like us, right?
Yeah.
it is us.
But I agree with what she was saying.
I agree.
Yes, I agree too.
Perfect example of when a magazine is much needed.
Yes.
Okay, she texted me a few minutes ago. She had to jet.
Okay.
So, just so we've got, can I get a motion to approve continuing with those D.N.R guides?
I'm so sorry. I'm had technical issues. But anyway, we also have a lot of people from surrounding states. So I'm a fan of, or proponent of, advertising there. Thank you all so much for your patience with my virtual attendance. I really, really appreciate it, but now I have to log off again, so.
Before you leave, do you want to second the motion to you keep using the D.N.R magazines?
Yes, I second that motion.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for that.
Bye-bye.
All right. Any further discussion on the matter? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All All right, we have made an actual decision.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know what to say beyond what we've already discussed about digital and social generally, other than that, like I said, we've got a minimum of like $3,400 to put towards influencer partnership, podcast advertising, whatever we think. I don't know if we want to take a deep dive into that conversation, or if there are just a couple of highlight reel things we want to get on. But I mean, we had a very in-depth conversation about this last year. Taylor's got a list of some influencers. Is there anything that people want to share specifically about that at this moment?
Did we determine how much that cost? Like, I don't still understand how much that costs to have an influencer. I know we talked about them staying at our places or eating at their restaurants.
Yeah. So micro-influencers are becoming a big thing right now. And so micro-influencer, like I sent you like Nate Spangle, he's a full-on influencer. But if we can get some of these more micro-influencers who are more in that 5,000 to 20,000 followers type of range, you can a lot of times get them with basically they'll get a free vacation and they'll advertise for you with that free vacation. So you can stay in my RV rental and you can eat at blank and blank for dinner, and they're basically doing live reviews or doing maybe not live reviews, but they are doing essentially sharing their experiences based on their travels, and then they're not necessarily getting anything. Sometimes they get swag out of it, but then they're promoting that as well. And so I think micro-influencer, there was a company they're friends of mine, they're in Alabama, they're in Northeast Alabama. They started tapping into micro-influencers, and they said that their gross revenue has increased 70%.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And they can't account for it all being from that, but they put a huge portion of their efforts into micro-influencers and have seen a great return. But 2 years ago, we had an in-depth conversation about a networking event with the local businesses, and Nathan was concerned about nobody showing up. So my thought is, what if we combine it with some education of like how to use low cost or no cost marketing in your business, how to incorporate digital marketing and social marketing, maybe needing to incorporate technology in general. Some of these places still pay cash, or they don't have maybe they don't have websites, they don't have anything, but how much that could influence their business so that when people are looking for things to do, and they are the people who are looking on TikTok or using AI, they can be found.
I completely agree with the opportunity to engage more with the people, businesses that we're representing. I think that is a key. And regarding influencers in print, digital, I think a lot of that stuff sorts itself out. The more data we collect about our own state of tourism here in Pulaski County, when talking to people and asking them where their customers come from, the more information we receive from our own people, I think the path clears a little bit for us. This debate on where we should be spending the money, because we'll be getting, if we can get actual information on people on where they think it is, then I think that's going to help direct us. We need to find out more information.
Thank you. I already drank all my water.
And I have a water bottle in here, so.
Move on to mine too.
I was
We need
going to.
But yeah, so I think education with networking would be good for local businesses. Let's learn from each other. And we had talked about even doing like where, if you do this business and you get a discount at this business, or if you go to this business, you can get a discount at this business, so that they're lumping.
I agree. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint it now because we still are, climbing an uphill battle to get some of our feet under us. But the more partnerships, the more collaborations we have, maybe there is a particular business or organization who says, Travel Indiana is a great source for us, and maybe we're able to partner on it. It's like, well, we'll advertise, if they want to do an ad, maybe we help subsidize that ad by putting our Pulaski County tourism brand on it while featuring this particular business. It's a way for both parties to win. Pulaski County as a whole still getting out there, but this maybe smaller business that can't afford a whole page ad can be helped out by us. I think there can be a lot of collaboration, partnership, and mutually beneficial opportunities. So Nathan, forget everything else you're doing, only work on tourism. Thank you.
Tom, So Taylor has reached out to a handful of influencers. Hasn't really been able to like sit down to nail down a specific cost because it depends on what we want. But I do know one that she, was, what's her name? Indiana Hannah. And she said, like, I don't have a set in stone price because it depends on exactly one for me. But she broke down an example where the total project cost, and I based on a mix of different platforms. She does IG, she does TikTok, she does blog posts, but she had a hypothetical project that would be around $2,000, including rights of perpetual use of the content. So like 3/4 of it, of the cost is the actual coming up, doing it, all of her pushing it, but then if we wanted to buy the video content to use it on our own in the future, that's an option. So.
And that's what they're staying at our places and eating at our restaurants for free and
Where's
all that stuff.
where's that 2,000 for her to pay for her accommodation?
It's not totally spelled out, because like I said, there's a lot of flexibility depending on what we want her to do and what we structure, but that's a ballpark range. So let's assume that, if there are costs that she incurs or get into that, 3,000. Right now we have the money for really at least one influencer to do something like that. And if we chip away at Great News and or Travel Indiana, that frees up. We could probably still keep a cushion and have enough to do agreements with two of them at two different times of the year and kind of customize what we want each one of them to cover. So maybe there's a little bit of overlap, but one of them is focusing east side of the county, one west side, or one of them is focusing on these types of things to do, and one of that sort of thing. But I think that we're in a position where once we fine tune things with Great News and Travel Indiana and decide if we're going to keep them or not, keep them in a scaled down way or jettison them, we're going to have money for the two of them. And then once we get that, we can work with them to fine tune exactly what we want their visit to look like.
My curiosity is if we can lower that cost, if the meal at this restaurant was free, if the stay at this was free.
Those are conversations I can have Taylor have with her.
Because then we can go from 2 to 4.
So first off, do we have some emphasis on what we want these people to cover, I guess, in that year? Well, give them we need some direction, I guess, and that might decide on who you choose.
I think it would be great if we could have at least one of them or two of them here during some kind of festival, because then we're highlighting a lot of the town, whichever town that is.
Wouldn't it be focusing on the festivals of the county, all of them? Or would we do just one?
Well, if you typically have them here for a long weekend.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
That makes sense then.
So
You're just going to do one.
you pick the dates of when the festival is in Winnemac or when the festival is in Francisville and have them here for that weekend. And then we can provide accommodations. Maybe they can stay at an Airbnb on the river in Winnemac during the festival, or they can stay at an RV during the fall festival or whatever. And then while they're here, they can showcase at least, a couple restaurants that we can set up for them.
But their main focus is the festival, and then they're going to talk about anything else they run across here.
The more we can bundle, I think
Yeah.
is better.
So I'm thinking along these lines, probably, if we were able to line up to getting somebody here during the Power Show weekend and someone here during fall festivals, probably those are going to be the two biggest festivals while still happening times a year where they're going to be able to get out on the river or do paintball or check out the state park or something and not be necessarily too limited by temperature or other concerns.
And well, maybe we do a third one that's just focused on our outdoor experiences. We can.
Then I would love to offer Airbnbs. The only issue is we'd have to plan that pretty soon because that's when people book up our Airbnbs during the hour from pass or
I agree.
I'll get Taylor diving into this ASAP.
Can, you want a motion on this?
I don't,
How about, okay. I'll make a motion and you decide whether we need to modify it.
okay,
Okay? How about we approve 2 micro influencers, 1 to cover festival in the fall, 1 to cover the power show with a, be negotiated with, through Taylor, is that Taylor? And not to exceed 2,000 apiece.
2000 might be a little, I'd probably go 25. If I have to, we're gonna have some room to scrape it also in the budget. It might be safer to get closer to 25. And
You think?
make us do a little bit of, we can always come down on it, but I don't wanna like have a motion that caps me at 2,000 and then.
Make sure she's being a good salesperson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll offer this and we'll offer that.
Yeah,
If all their meals are covered, all their overnights, then maybe it's not gonna cost us that much. What do you think? Do I need to modify this a little bit?
I would say 2,500, not to exceed 2,500, we can.
Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Anita wins. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll get Taylor on that. Fantastic. Thank you. Last thing on the agenda is other business. I think we kind of covered that. I think it would be worthwhile to expedite some sort of network with tourism and tourism adjacent business where maybe we feed them and we can have these conversations. We probably need to dive in offline a little into how we want to approach educating. Is there a tourism business consultant we want to try to bring to town? Hash out an agenda for what all we want to cover. Obviously, just getting them in communication with each other. Talk about the possibility of doing some of these B2B partnerships. But I think it's a good idea to try to make this happen sooner rather than later.
Make sure that we have a great hook on getting them there for the education portion of it. Low to no cost marketing plans, something that is like, makes it doable right off the bat. And whoever we get, please make sure that they're not boring with an extensive PowerPoint.
Do any of you have anybody you work with you think with or would be worth approaching, or do you just want me to look into? I mean, I've got contacts with like small business marketing broadly, but I don't know if any of them have the experience. You could direct me to somebody who has experience with tourism attractions specifically. So I'll defer to any of you if you have somebody, otherwise I will.
Do we want to, I mean, I know this is coming from tourism in this advisory council, but do we want to just focus the education on small business marketing so that it's not, I mean, I have tons of contacts for small business marketing, not so much with a emphasis on tourism, just marketing in general. Let's start with the baby steps.
We can do that. And I mean, if you want to send me contacts, and I've got, through the Small Business Development Center, I've got contacts who are going to cost us little to nothing to bring them down here to do it. I was just kind of getting at the core, like, I don't know from the work those of you who are in actual tourism attractions do, like, are there any noticeable differences in how you approach marketing versus if you're a different kind of small business? Or are there enough principles that transcend within small business that at least, and maybe we find after we have that first one, if we find somebody more specialized for a follow-up conversation once we just kind of hit them with small business marketing?
I think there's enough of the small stuff to get people started. And then there are people who are already doing those things, but they can learn, they can get a tidbit out of it. Or for example, Google My Business. I can't believe how many businesses in Pulaski County don't even have a Google My Business, and it is free. And so like, let's talk about how important that is. But what maybe the people who have a Google My Business may not realize is that you need to treat your Google My Business as a social media account, and you need to be adding photos and videos to it on a weekly basis, because that does affect your algorithm and your SEO.
It sounds like a lot of what you're talking about is what Brad's already doing. I'm not sure that Brad would be the person to talk, maybe he knows the people that would work well with him.
He might be a great resource.
Yeah, and I would expect him to be there that night.
Yeah, and maybe it's like, we have like I don't want to make it sound too stuffy or normal, but sort of like a keynote presenter, but then we have a conversation between this person and Brad, maybe one other person in marketing and or one of you or another local tour about some of the things you've done, and we make it a little less formal.
Yes, and they, adult learning, most of us learn through storytelling, so.
Cool. I will try to get the wheels moving on that. Any other thoughts on that, or does anyone have anything else for the good of the order?
Did I just miss, did we talk about virtual attendance resolution?
That was in the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that myself. But I want to make sure we approve it. And then, just for clarification on that, Nathan, there's no sunset on that, though. Once we've adopted it, it goes forward. Okay.
That is a governing rule for the county.
Okay.
The only time that will change is if the county ever adopts an innkeeper's tax and we have to abandon the CAC and replace it with a formal tourism commission. They'll just have to re-adopt it. But that's not something I don't know is going to happen. So, yeah, there are obviously rules in there about, how many meetings somebody can attend, so the minimum half the members in the room in person, but we now have that flexibility. So, if it were any day other than Monday, Jeff could have had somebody else in the cafe, and he could have attended via Zoom while not living in Francisco. Yeah. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn at 1:06 p.m.?
I make a motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Anyone object to going home?
Nope.
All right, thank you all. Very good conversation. Appreciate it. You're done. I need your signature on 3 things. That is the resolution and the 2 minutes.
Love when you did the elementary school. I'm like, oh gosh, but it was like for one of those positive referrals.